Armande, immigration and personal injury attorney, making this video because today, August 19th, the applications for parole in place, Biden PIP, or keeping families together has been released. And so now you can actually go online and begin submitting these applications. If you don't have an account, you can go to my.uscis.gov to create an account and submit your application. You can obviously hire an attorney to assist you with filing this application. But some things I just wanted to go over. The requirements I went over in the last video, but really quickly, just in case you didn't see that video, you have to be a non-citizen spouse or stepchild of a United States citizen to be eligible for this. It's going to be on a case-by-case basis, so there is a discretionary aspect to it. You have to have been present in the United States without admission or parole. So that means that you didn't enter with a visa. You're not an overstay. Maybe you enter with a visitor visa and now you've overstayed. You're not going to be eligible for this application. Or if you had like a border crossing card and you were admitted or paroled for any other reason, you are not going to be eligible for this program, this new program, Parole in Place. So you also need to have 5-10 years of continuous physical presence as of June 17th, 2024. So you have to go back basically to June 17th of 2014. The kind of documents you will need to show for those are going to be rent receipts, utility bills, hospital records, medical records, any other kinds of bank statements showing transactions. There can be birth certificates if you had children here in the United States while you were here. And then any, of course, photographs with landmarks, you've been to Disney, stuff like that, that are very obvious that it's in the United States can be used. You can use tax return transcripts, tax returns, what else? Deeds, mortgages, rental agreements to show that you have been continuously present in the United States for this 10-year period, and it has to be as of June 17th, 2024. So that is the cutoff date. You do need to go back 10 years. So also you need to have a valid marriage as of June 17th, 2024. What's a valid marriage? Basically, it was a bona fide marriage. It was entered into for the purpose of getting married and not for the purpose of gaining an immigration benefit. So I do understand that the bona fide marriage requirement is not going to be as scrutinized as much or as strict as it is going to be later when you're going to file an I-130 petition, where they're going to be doing more investigation and they're going to scrutinize the validity of your marriage more, in that once you get the parole in place approved and you hopefully are able to correct that admission and parole problem that you had, and now under 245A of the INA, you're going to be able to file for an adjustment of status, a green card application. What else? Some other things, you have to have no disqualifying crimes. Some of the crimes that they've disclosed today is it's going to obviously include all felonies that are not going to, they're going to be disqualifying crimes. So you cannot, if you have a felony, apply for this, and you shouldn't, because you're going to put yourself at risk, which I'll talk about in a little bit, of being basically identified and picked up by ICE if you have been here for a long time and you basically are under the radar in reality. And so other offenses would be involving any offenses with firearms, any domestic violence cases, sexual abuse, sexual exploitation, most drug offenses, even if it's not going to be under a felony, so any kind of possession, it doesn't have to necessarily be a possession with intent to distribute. It looks like those are going to be all disqualifying crimes for this program. And also any other criminal convictions, excluding minor traffic documents, will result in a presumption of ineligibility for PIP. So what does that mean? That basically it's going to be your burden to submit a lot of documents that show that they should exercise their discretion in your favor. So maybe you're a member of your church, you do other volunteer work, you you're a coach for, your team. You're involved in your children's schooling and other organizations, that you can show um, that you're basically a good member of the community, and that therefore USCIS should exercise their discretion in your favor. Um, that's going to be very important if you have any kind of crimes, um, to submit those types of documents. So it's really important in those cases you hire an attorney. Um, what else? Um, as I said before, you obviously can't pose a threat to public safety or national security or border security, and you have to merit a exercise of favorable discretion, and all of this is going to be basically determined on a case by case basis. So that's going to leave again a room for discretion. Um, what about the process and fees? The application itself is going to cost $580. There's not going to be any fee waiver. The form itself is the I-131F, which is entitled Application for Parole in Place for Certain Non-Citizen Spouses and Stepchildren of United States Citizens. Um, and what else? They're going to consider your immigration history. So if you've been in deportation, exclusion, or removal proceedings before, or you were caught at the border, you've crossed over a bunch of times, you have apprehension, stuff like that, they're most likely going to deem you ineligible for that. Or you better have a lot of good documents that show you've been a very productive member of the community, you have a lot of ties to the United States, etc., for them to consider approving your application. Um, Now, some of the documents that I want to go over that you're going to need for this application is proof of identity, so birth certificate, valid with a valid photo, any identification documents, valid passport. You're going to need the marriage certificate to show the valid marriage. Again, you're not going to have to provide as much documents like you do for an I-130 for the bona fide marriage documents. So that's going to be something that you're going to have to deal with later. I believe that only filing basically a marriage certificate is going to be sufficient. Of course, the marriage certificate should show that you were married on or before June 17th, 2024. And the termination of any prior marriages, so final divorce decrees, is a must before you got into the current marriage with the United States citizen spouse that you're filing on behalf of, or on the basis of, for this application. And then proof of that citizen spouse or step parent citizenship. So that would be if you're born in the United States, a birth certificate showing you were born here, or if you were a naturalized or are a naturalized citizen, then the naturalization certificate. And then, of course, if you have any arrests, it's really important you speak to an attorney, because it's going to possibly put you at more risk for filing this application. But if you do decide to, then you're going to have to show the court dispositions for any arrest charges or convictions. And if you are a stepchild, also you'll have to show the birth certificate of the non-citizen parent or the adoption decree, showing that the United States citizen is the step parent. And of course, as I said in the last video, you're going to have to be married to the United States citizen has to be married to the non-citizen parent of the stepchild before the stepchild turns 18 years old to be considered a stepchild. If it's after 18 years old, there's a no-go. It's not going to be considered a stepchild. And if you are granted PIP, then you can file for a work permit. So you cannot file for a work permit simultaneously with this application. This is a big deal. So you have to wait until your parole in place is approved. Then you can file under the category C11 for this for the work permit and the authorization to work in the United States. There will be a fee waiver for the work permit, but you have to do a paper filing for that. And what other things? I mean, a lot of people have I-601A waivers pending, and so that's for unlawful presence basically, and that's for people who were not admitted or paroled most of the time. And so now they're calling attorneys and they're saying, well, this PIP, what's that going to do? How is that going to help me if I file for it? Well, it's going to help you because you don't have to leave the country when if you get PIP approved. Now, the problem is that, like DACA, this program in reality is going to probably be challenged in courts, and there's a possibility that there's going to be an injunction depending on any court order that happens. So that's something to consider. And obviously, even if you get your PIP approved, another downside is that if you already have an I-601 waiver approved and you get the PIP approved and then you decide to file for the green card here in the United States instead of scheduling an interview abroad to do consular processing, which is what you have to do with an I-601 waiver, even if it's approved. The downside is that as soon as you file the adjustment of status with the approved PIP, let's assume that there's no injunction and everything goes smoothly and you get your PIP approved under this program, and then you file your adjustment of status application along with your I-130 petition and other documents that are necessary. The problem is that your I-601A waiver is going to be denied. So then if for any reason your application gets denied, or there's a court injunction, or there's a change in presidency, and we have an election coming up in 3 months, so that's something big to consider, is that if there's a change and if there's Trump that's going to be elected, it's very likely, and he has the power to, and it's very likely that he's going to just cancel this program. And then you've lost your I-601 waiver that you waited for 5-6 years to get approved. So highly recommend being careful about that. I personally will not be filing these until after the election results because there's a huge risk there. So also similarly, be careful if you have any crimes or any adverse immigration history, like misrepresentation, or you have a lot of apprehensions at the border, you have a lot of encounters with CBP, Customs, Border and Patrol, and you need to be careful because you're gonna put yourself possibly out there and exposed, and you might be doing yourself more harm than benefit if this program is canceled, there's an injunction, or there's a change in presidency and the program is just canceled. Then you possibly are going to be in a worse position because now they have all your information and they could target you for to be basically arrested and deported. So I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at rodarmandalaw.com or click on the link below or in my profile to reach out to me and speak to me. Take care.